Hi, my name is Noah Meir. I am the CEO of the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy. With us today is the esteemed professor of psychology at NYU, Yaccov Trope. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Can you please tell us a bit about your research and share some insights as to the effects social distancing we are currently undergoing in light of coronavirus?
My work looks at the tools people use to expand the scope of things that they predict, that they care about, and are able to plan for. To people that are not only like myself, but people who are more diverse, to a greater range of individuals, to people who are farther away from me, that don't live in my own neighborhood, and to relate to other places, to relate to hypothetical possibilities, to scenarios that I imagine, to counterfactual. All of these are examples of expanding my scope. And they mean being able to relate to objects, to people, to situations that are distant from me, that are psychologically distant from me, in time, in sociality, in location, and in likelihood or hypotheticality. So it's this kind of expansion. Sometimes we need to contract and being focused on myself, in the here and now, in reality. So that's what our work has been about. Social distancing creates a challenge. It's true that technology enables us to interact with people in a remote fashion, but it's not the same as having them close in my location at the same time and so on and so forth. What we know is that when we face a challenge to deal with something that is remote, we start thinking more abstractly. We start looking for the big picture, to see the forest rather than the individual trees or the individual branches and leaves within the tree. We have this kind of, we take an overarching, distant perspective when things are distant. So when I'm detached from my workplace, from all kinds of organizations that I may be part of, and in general, from various aspects of society, from various institutions of society, I'm likely to look at them in a more general way. Instead of asking how things work there in the specific location where I am, I ask more general question of why does it work that way? I ask myself bigger questions about the workplace, the organization, and the institution in society. I think about it as a whole in a way that in everyday life, when I'm part of it, I don't see. So taking a distance, social distancing, in a sense, can give me a novel, a new perspective on the social settings, organizations, institutions, social distancing that happens it happens also in other big events, like in big wars. It's true, you go with the troops and so on and so forth, but you cannot interact with people. You have to hide because the bombardment and so on and so forth. Periods of war, epidemics are followed usually, in many cases, with big social changes. And one explanation is that people take a new perspective. They look at it from, in a way, outside of the box, outside of the silos they are usually in during the daily life. So it can prompt social change. That's why it's a unique opportunity.
Winston Churchill famously said to never waste a good crisis, or never let a crisis go to waste. And I was going to ask you about the opportunities, and it sounded like you touched upon some of that social distancing can serve as an opportunity to take a step back and assess things from afar. But if you could please just elaborate on what opportunities do you identify as a result of the coronavirus?
Yeah, as you say, Churchill is a wise man. He understood the time of crisis are an opportunity that one shouldn't miss. And what the crisis does, and it's also in our personal life, And sometimes at work, and when we try to solve a problem, we step back. We see things in a way we have not thought about them before. And that's true in all kinds of innovation, technological, scientific innovations. You work on a problem, you work on a problem, work on a problem. But you get to a dead end and you say, oh my God, I cannot do it. I'm at a block, this and that. You go away from it and then it comes. And then you have the eureka. And then you have this insight. And then you understand what should be the policy. You understand, you have things fall into a coherent structure when you go out of the trenches that you are in solving a personal problem, in solving a technological problem, in solving a scientific problem, in solving societal problem. That's why many of the innovators, of you want to go even farther, prophets, they went to the desert, in time of crisis, to kind of look at society from a distance. And that's where they got the big insight. That's what happened to Moses. That's what happened to Jesus. That's what happened to, you have a new perspective. The problem is it's unlikely to be a new perspective on your spousal relationship because they're all time around, And then you get
that
the
a problem or a good thing?
Well, that could be a problem. You wouldn't see the big picture. You'll get more and more into issues of who washes the dishes, who runs in the house, who left the telephone, who is watching television, what television.
So you recommend social.
It becomes more and more contracted. You see what I'm saying?
So,
and we know that that it's it's a big pressure on spousal relations.
So you recommend social distancing regardless of the situation we're at.
It's good to have social distancing from a little bit.
A little, yeah, from one time, yeah.
No, but we have research on that showing that when you ask about, suppose we are married, the two of us, and I interview you through diaries when I'm with you, and when I interview you when I'm away, like at work or on a trip or something. When I'm away, I see your main characteristics. I see the essence.
You see the forest.
Yeah, I see exactly. I see the forest, and in many cases, I see the reason why to begin with I wanted to be with you. You see, it's lost when you are there all the time together. So social distancing as its trade-off. All these things are related. You see, when people make decisions, that's a finding that we have across. Make decisions about the future, same decision. It's a decision that applies now or applies to the future. I'm negotiating for an outcome that is to be realized in a week, or it's to be realized in a year. I'm much more flexible. I do much more log rolling, seeing what's good for you, that I don't care, that I'll give you, or what I care about that you don't care, so I'll take it from you. You are much more inventive, flexible, collaborative, creative in getting negotiation solutions when you think about it in the future. It's the same thing. It's just in the future, and you make an agreement now. So you see, having a distant perspective on the thing you negotiate leads you to higher level thinking where all kinds of nuisances don't matter. So that's the problem when diplomats get together. The funniest is what happened in Camp David with Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat. I don't know what was going on there, but did you see how they got into a fight about who will enter first? They got into a Krav Maga. They got into and obviously Ehud Barak, not obviously, I cannot say that, but Ehud Barak had some experience with this, so he won. he was able to push Yasser Arafat into the room
Yeah,
before.
but I don't think that we won in the greater scheme of things.
Exactly. So maybe that's what they end up. So there's some value in being separated. That's also why you have mediators and so on. So
And that's the reason that they say absence makes the heart grow fonder.
that's right. That's right.
It's good to know
That's right.
there's scientific proof
That's
for
right.
that.
That's
So,
right. They also related to what you say, the absence makes the heart go fonder. You are often, many times, a better, that's interesting, for diplomacy, you are a better representative of your group when you are outside of the group.
what do you foresee as the potential implications of coronavirus on society at large and on globalization?
On one hand, there's something unique about pandemics. It's a common predicament for everybody. So you see our common interest. It, it makes more salient our common interest and our interdependence. And the interdependence is not in terms of trade and tariffs, military or territorial gains. It's in terms of how we all protect ourselves from the outside. It's like an alien invading us, and then we are all together. One of the best solutions to intergroup conflict is having a common enemy. We have a common enemy, which is the virus. Those who need to fight it are not tied to a particular nation. These are universal skills like science, technology, medical science, and caretakers. You want to learn from others and you want to collaborate with others, which doesn't work so much where the interests are antagonistic. It creates a more collaborative possibility. I'm praying for the possibility of us fighting the common enemy, that it would bleed into the way we think about climate change. That this will be the same mental model that we use, what we are using for fighting the coronavirus, will be used in dealing with climate change. It's not trivial because there are lots of differences, and the differences is that the coronavirus is right here, and within a few days, if I go out, I can and get close to people, I'll get it, and so on and so forth. Climate change, it requires more high-level thinking. It requires zooming out. It needs to be, it requires thinking much more into the future. It's a social dilemma. Let them reduce their pollution and so on and so forth. But maybe it would bleed into it.
What steps do you think we can take as a society in order to increase our resilience at such a time of crisis?
And in time of anxiety, in time of uncertainty, in times of stress, and also in times of scarcity, there's the potential for wanting a strong figure man or woman. There's the allure of autocracy that can come about after such big crisis. Crisis requires fast action that cut through all kinds of democratic processes. And if it is done in a measured way, in a temporary way, that's fine. But it can support the rise of authoritarian thinking as we have seen in the past, following the Great Depression. These are possibilities. So I think what we need to do is to do all we can to maintain our democratic institutions and have some antidotes to demagoguery. Demagoguery that it's one person vis-a-vis everybody else. Like everybody is in the piazza and the Duce is standing up there and mass communicating to everybody, and it's like a undifferentiated mass. That's where I see the importance of communities that are organic and real, that can buffer the influence of dictatorial, demagoguery, authoritarian autocrats. You see what I'm saying? It's very important that the organizations that we have developed are maintained and people remain, are not separated from their real communities, whether the communities have to do with work, whether the communities have to do with their religion, whether the community has to do with all kinds of social activities. That is extremely, extremely important. I see it becoming more and more prominent in Israel. I mean, there's lots of these kind of voluntary groups and association. It's an aspect of American life. There's always been Yaccov, the sociologist who was here in America. They are a buffer against autocracy. Another factor that leads to autocracy is inequality and sharp inequality. The rise in inequality may also, and that can be precipitated by the coronavirus, by the epidemic. We see it happening now. Those who suffer more and cannot socially distance are the underprivileged. And that can give rise again to autocracy. So greater solidarity by all kinds of means, respecting people who don't have respecting the jobs that are being done, not necessarily by people with a college degree and advanced degree. Appreciating the plumber and appreciate the truck driver and appreciating the delivery person, appreciating the nurse assistants, appreciating all those. Now we see how critical they are, but we need to, the teacher, we need to give them more respect and compensation in not just what globalization has done. It is the economical globalization has made some gain, very few gain from him, and the rest are left behind. That's a big problem. And society cannot be resilient with inequality. No society has been vibrant when it's unequal, not in the long term.
If I want to summarize the main takeaways from what you're saying, number one is, as we say in Hebrew, dafka, even though we're in social distancing, we need to make sure to maintain our communities, both on a professional but on a personal basis, in order to keep those relationships and those feeling of belonging, because that can help strengthen our resilience. And number two is to make sure each and every one of us that we know to appreciate the people around us and to make them feel needed, or as the word is today, essential, because I mean, when people feel that they're valued and are seen in a positive light, that could also contribute to resilience.
That's right. That's right. And maybe this kind of looking from the outside makes you appreciate these things, make you appreciate how society works, and understand that it's bad for all of us if a big chunk of society is totally behind. Yeah.
When you look at the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy, which is really a hybrid of academia and more hands-on areas of expertise that is offered to participants from across the board, from the civil sector, the public sector, and the private sector, what advantage do you think that the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy has as a hybrid of academia and a practical hands-on program?
I think the Charney New Diplomacy Initiative has a special advantage in that it's ambidextrous. It includes the high level, which is the academic part, which needs to be universal, applies generally, transcends any particular context, and the practitioners that are familiar with the specific idiosyncratic context. If you had only practitioners that are familiar with a particular problem, a particular location, a particular time, that's not good. Then everybody is in his own or own silo. But if you include also academics who think more broadly, and you integrate them, you get new synergy.